Get to Old Navy today for a one-day denim deal you can't miss. Jeans are just $10 for women, $7 for kids. But hurry, you've got one day only today to get $10 denim at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Ends tonight. Valid 3/2, select styles only.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Voices for Change 2.0, the only podcast that focuses on mental health while mixing in movies, music, books, sports, and pop culture. Here are your hosts, Rebecca and Joe Lombardo.
Hey guys, welcome to Voices for Change 2.0. It looks like we're having another issue with Joe and Rebecca's microphone. Every once in a while it kind of shorts out on us. They're going to call back in just a couple of seconds here for us. So give us one moment for that. Today's guest is Brent, Lyles. I'm going to give them 1 second to call in here. This is Scott, the producer. We're also live on chat. If you're listening to us live on Blog Talk Radio, you can scroll down below the slideshow there, and you'll be able to chat with us if you have any questions for Rebecca or Joe or Brent. So go ahead and jump on in the chat room if you wish. And here are Rebecca and Joe.
Hey, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we never know when that little interesting glitch is going to occur for us, but we're here now. So welcome to Voices for Change 2.0.
Yay. You can hear us now. It kind of takes all the salt off the thing I originally said, but whatever. So thanks for tuning in, guys. It's the middle of February. Thank God we're halfway through this mess.
No, thank God for me. February can crawl by as slow as it wants because I have a birthday next month, and I'm not really interested in even being awake on that day, let alone celebrating it.
Yeah. You'll be fine. I'll be here with you. It'll be okay.
I'll be older than dirt.
You will not be older than dirt. I took a whole week off to spend with you, so no frownies or nothing like that.
Yes, dear.
So, anyway, guys, hope wherever you are in the country you are keeping warm because it's pretty doggone cold here in beautiful downtown Detroit. We're actually not in downtown Detroit, but
we're close.
Close enough.
Not that far.
Stone's throw. Not really.
Oh, no.
No. But anyway, yeah.
So yeah, we wanted to apologize first of all for last week because someplace that I won't.
We won't mention the name of the place because we don't want to throw shade because generally we think they're pretty okay, but
got a really bad vanilla milkshake.
What kind of shake?
Milkshake.
What kind of shake? A vanilla shake.
Yes, dear.
Vanilla shake.
Vanilla shake. Oh my goodness. From someplace, and I got violently ill to the point where I couldn't even make it to the bathroom. So I had to have a garbage can next to the bed, and I'm sure anybody that's ever dealt with that knows how pleasant that is.
Yeah.
So, and my poor husband had to actually be in the same room with me when I was using that garbage can. I didn't go to the bathroom in it. I just vomited in it. I should clear that up.
Yeah, I'm happy that you did. Yeah, thankfully I don't have that characteristic that some people have of sympathetic vomiting.
Sympathetic vomiting, yeah.
I'm eternally grateful because I hate throwing up to begin with. But so my poor wife here dealt with a little bit of food poisoning, we think, and it's funny because it was the first time we got shakes from this place, and it'll probably be the last time we get shakes from this place.
You won't catch me there again.
If you really, really, really are curious, you can always send us a DM on Twitter or whatever to find out what the place was. But
yeah, I don't want to throw shade on and have it have been something else that I ate.
Yeah, so we're not going to cast aspersions. Just we're sorry that it was a last minute cancellation due to bleh.
Yeah.
So.
The other thing we wanted to talk about today was, and we don't think we've been able to talk about this yet, is the movie Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, with it, especially with it being the winter times, it's good prime movie watching weather, and we availed ourselves finally of Bohemian Rhapsody, which we unfortunately missed in the theater, and I kind of feel bad about that since seeing the movie now because it was awesome.
It's fantastic. One of the best movies that I think I have ever seen. I've watched it 7 times now since we purchased it on Amazon, and it's maybe
couple
2 weeks?
Yeah. She's watched it 7 times in 2 weeks. So it's turned her into quite the Queen fan. We've even bought the Platinum Collection Greatest Hits Volumes 1, 2, and 3. So she's hooked, which makes me happy because I've been a Queen fan for years.
Yeah, and you know what? I liked them as a kid. I liked, Another One Bites the Dust, and I liked We Are the Champions and whatnot because I was a football trainer in high school, and we'd listen to that to get pumped up for games. So it wasn't as if I didn't like them. It was just that I was so caught up in my little bubble of Duran Duran and Hall & Oates that nobody else really could compare, and I just, didn't like the big long opera type songs, stuff like what Led Zeppelin put out at times and Iron Maiden puts out and
Dream Theater. Yeah,
Dream Theater, the stuff that lasts 12 minutes for a song.
I'm actually hoping that by her enjoying Queen, maybe this might open her up to a little bit more of the stuff that I enjoy listening to that she has.
You keep hoping about that.
Continually bagged on for the last 17 and a half years. So
You keep hoping on that, and hope in one hand and crap in the other, and see which one gets full faster.
Oh, look at you with the quippy, snappy remarks today. So, with us concentrating on media and talking about the movie, this is a nice little segue into another form of media that concerns our guest for today, as he works in the medium of the comic book. Ooh,
yeah.
This is right in my wheelhouse.
Or graphic novels.
Or graphic novels. Well, there's both.
Yes.
So go ahead with your spiel, babe. I don't want to cut off your thing.
Well, if we're done bantering back and forth about our current situation, then I will go and lead into our lovely guest.
Yeah, I think that would be great because I'm eager to talk to the gentleman. Especially after doing some of the research I did last night and seeing what he's got going on, and
yes,
I pick his brain on some stuff.
We're really excited because this is a guest that we haven't had anyone like him before. We've talked to a couple of doctors. I don't recall us specifically having a therapist on the show before, but he is a therapist that lives with PTSD, ADHD, and MDD, and he does this amazing thing with comic books. He writes them, and they're fantastic, and we'll give out the website later, but you have to go to the website to check them out because they are absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. And he's really been kind of breaking down some of the barriers surrounding mental illness with that. So today we're going to talk about his life and his advocacy. So please welcome to the show, Brent Lyles.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, Brent, thanks for joining us today. Sorry about the lack of studio audience. They're not around. They went to get a sandwich. But,
it's okay.
We are ecstatic to have you on with us today from down in warm, sunny Florida, not cold Michigan.
And we're not jealous at all.
No, we're not bitter. So, how you doing?
So I'll do my best not to. Dude, good. I'll do my best not to tempt you guys. I think it's actually beautiful weather out right now. Sunny, and it's about 70 degrees out with a nice little breeze. So we're actually in beautiful Florida weather right now. And then we usually drop down at night to like the 60s and 50s. So no jealousy there.
I hate you. I hate you.
And then you guys are probably pretty cold in the 50s, right?
Yes. It took a while for me. But when I moved down here at 13, I remember I spent pretty much like 5 years in like shorts. I was constantly burning up, but now since I've been down here, I'll be 32 in the next coming weeks. I've pretty much, my body has acclimated itself to the weather where I can wear jeans down in 100-degree weather and not sweat. So
wow,
it's weird how your body can transition from, you know, going from Michigan and being used to cold weather to minuses to the opposite degree, now going the totally next direction and being in tropical weather. So it's been interesting.
I can definitely imagine, and you know, 50 degrees, like you said, you know, I'd be walking around in shorts and a tank top, and y'all would be down there wearing North Face and Carhartt and whatnot, being like, oh, it's cold.
It's true.
We have all the windows open in our house.
Yeah. Well, no, we couldn't have the windows open because we got idiots that burn wood all times of the year.
Yeah, we won't go
into that. But anyway.
Do you have any questions for us before we go on?
No, I'm just very thankful that you guys' time and energy to, you know, focus this type of chat for a topic with, you know, a conversation with mental health and as well as mental illnesses, and as well as having me as a guest. Like you stated in my intro, just having me as a guest, as a therapist who also lives with mental illness, and then also giving a little light to the medium of comics and graphic novels. So I appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely. You know, it's really cool having, and we haven't, like Beck said in the intro, we haven't talked to a therapist before, so it'd be nice getting, you know, that outlook, and then also just like I said, man, comics are totally my wheelhouse. I used to collect back in the 90s. I don't collect anymore, but like I watched Gotham this morning before we did the show. You know, we watched I watched Thursday night's Gotham, which is, for those of you who are uninitiated, you got to check that show out because it's freaking awesome.
And my favorite graphic novel is The Crow, which I am obsessed over.
Yeah.
Wish I had a copy of it. I borrowed it from somebody several years ago and read it, but you know, everything The Crow related is in my wheelhouse. So, not to mention the fact that Joe has kind of taught me about so many superheroes and whatnot that I became a fan. And while I'm more of a Marvel fan than a DC fan, I'm obsessed with all of it now. So. Something I never thought would actually happen, but it did. So. Yep.
So
that's funny. My wife would probably say the same thing as well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how we just bring them over to the dark side, isn't it?
Of course, best way to go.
That's right. All right, really quick, I got to get this off my chest before we dive into our questions. Being that you are of the comics realm, best on-screen Batman.
Oh, on the spot. Michael Keaton, still to this day. It's classic.
Nice.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with the new mantle being passed on to a new actor. So, Michael Keaton's just always. I think it's probably because I grew up, so I remember watching that like as a kid, and it's just never been the same. I mean, Christian Bale is a great actor. But it was just too much grounded in realism, and Michael Keaton was more in line towards the comics. Plus, that was Tim Burton as well. I mean, Tim Burton with comics was just, his interpretation of the comic book was interesting.
Yeah, you know, he can actually be credited with, you know, getting the campiness out of the genre and getting it back to, you know, being a little more, I don't want to say grounded, but, you know, taken a little bit more seriously, I guess.
I agree.
And my favorite is Ben Affleck, so
yep.
Unfortunately, now I have to deal with them finding another one that I'll probably end up hating because I loved Ben Affleck so much.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed his performance as Batsy. I thought he did a really solid job, and he didn't get the credit that he should have for it. You know, But yeah, Keaton was always my guy too. So I'm right there with you on that. Yeah. Okay, got that out of the way. Let's jump into the questions.
All right.
That's funny.
So let's start off with Brent. Why don't you tell us where your mental health journey begins?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say my journey of really self-discovery of it probably happened in my late teens, and probably early 20s is when I took kind of an initiative of self-awareness. I remember back when I was a kid, I remember I had a diagnosis of ADHD as a kid, but this was also during the 90s where there was a lot of misconceptions about ADHD, where it was more looked upon as behavioral than actually chemical or biological, as we know. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I saw somebody for a little bit when I was a kid, and then I was on Ritalin, and then that didn't help. And then I remember after that, nothing really changed. I knew that something was, looking back, I knew that something was kind of off with me. Just going into these special classes, always feeling like I was kind of really behind. I was a very anxious kid as well. I felt things very deeply, and I would have dips as well with my moods where I would feel very kind of numb to certain things or kind of depressed. And I think as a kid, especially in the 90s, there wasn't a lot of, I would say, recognition or understanding. Even though we had the science, we had the psychology behind it, it wasn't well known. And I guess the communication, the stigmatization behind mental health was still very solid. So during my late teens, I went through several different events that kind of led me to my journey. One was leading up to a suicide attempt at age 19. And I kind of, when that happened, I kind of had a realization that something was off. And from that, from 19 to about 23, I went through this weird transition of doing my own research, and I kind of knew a little bit here and there with psychology because my dad is a former practicing psychologist who is now a life coach and motivational speaker. So I heard of mental health and mental illness from his standpoint, but never really took it on as my own as a discovery. So about age 23, I had another suicide attempt, and during this time as well, I was never hospitalized for any of those two attempts. I was lucky enough to have a girlfriend that was very grounded and kind of helped me during those transitions, who actually became my wife. And from that, at 23, I kind of turned my whole life around. I got my GED. I was a middle school dropout at one point due to the mental health challenges. And finally got my GED at 23, and then I went right into college and into my bachelor's degree of psychology. And I kind of went through this discovery for myself of trying to discover and trying to figure out what was going on with me by reading books, asking questions about my college professors. I finally saw a therapist. I saw another therapist, and during that journey, I was able to kind of discover what was really going and taking place with me.
Wow. Well, that's awesome that you kind of took your schooling as an opportunity to discover what was going on with you.
Yeah, definitely.
That shows an incredible initiative, and thank God that both of your attempts you failed. Mm-hmm. Normally people aren't big on quitters and failures, but well done you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're happy that you're here with us and that we get to talk with you. So yay.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So how old were you when you decided to begin to use your gifts to help others?
I found that realization, I think, as a kid. I always had this aspect about my personality of really being a helper. And I think that was really shaped by my environment and social interactions with my eldest brother, who is disabled and lives with cerebral palsy. So that, in its sense of, being a younger brother, I kind of had this servanthood kind of mentality of always taking care of him, always going about of being almost like trained in this realization I had somebody that was very different than me physically, and that had certain medical conditions. And I think from that kind of made me more self-aware of differences of different people. And also during this time growing up in Detroit, and, I'm sure you can relate as well, this was in the 90s. I grew up in Warren at one point. I grew up white in inner city, and then my brother happens to be disabled. So I was very enmeshed with not only culture, but then also understanding of the disabled community and how that operates from a first-hand experience. So from that, I just always had kind of a heart that wanted to take care of people, and I always felt things very deeply with people. And that was always reinforced, and it got through my teens. I would see it through here and there, although I was going through a really dark time during my teenage years, which I forgot to mention as well. I used to be a cutter, so I struggled with cutting from about ages probably 13 up until my first suicide attempt at 19. So during that time, I really wasn't very comfortable with who I was, with that mentality. I'm sure that was reinforced a lot by the segmentation of men don't cry, you're highly sensitive. A lot of people questioned my own sexuality because of how caring I was, or how I wasn't really into sports. I was more into comics, into the arts, into dance. So there was a lot of prejudgment, and during that time really isolated me and being who I was. So I kind of classify that as my dark aspect of not really being my true self. And when I got to 23 and started taking care of myself and going to college, that's kind of when I kind of bloomed again in this person who I was meant to be. And it's just been nonstop ever since then. Since I got my bachelor's degree, I went right into the field of addictions, and I've been in the field of addictions and mental illness for the past, 5 years now, which is crazy. And it just hasn't stopped since that. And it's just each year is a little bit different, and I get to be, kind of like, a very different version of a therapist than most people are used to. I'm very open. I actually self-disclose. That's kind of frowned upon a little bit in different areas of theories and psychology and counseling. I see that as a very powerful tool to build rapport with clients. And a lot of clients I work with, I can actually use firsthand experiences and kind of build rapport with them very quickly due to being so open and honest about my own struggles, and kind of letting them know that, hey, just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean I don't struggle with certain things in life, or I haven't had lived experiences in it.
That's awesome. It's kind of like, I'll put it this way. I'm not surprised that you're working in the comics medium either, because you kind of had your own hero's journey of sorts, which is, heartbreaking, but, ultimately, you're out there doing the good and helping the people, and that's awesome.
And I can relate to you on the cutting front. I'm currently 5 years clean. Almost 6 years clean myself. So, that started back in my very early 20s, and it got to be very, very, very bad, and I was hospitalized for it a couple of times. So, I can definitely relate to you on that particular topic.
Mm-hmm. Good for you with 6 years. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's awesome that you've got the support of your wife. Sounds like she's just an absolute godsend for you, and let her know that we're grateful to her for being there for you.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. Yeah, my wife, she's amazing. She's gone through her own heroine's journey with her own struggles with mental health and mental illness as well. So, and she's also a therapist as well.
Oh,
so
cool.
people always joke, they're like, I wonder how those conversations are between you two. And so, but it's just amazing. You know, we both went through kind of a similar journey. I'm just at a place where I think I'm a little bit more open about my journey than my wife is, which is fine because I think everyone is, you know, entitled to what their truth is and what they're willing to share with their comfortability level with their mental health and mental illness. So I'm lucky and blessed enough to have someone as, you know, a partner that understands that aspect and has been there multiple times for me throughout this journey, and is actually the reason why I'm pretty much still alive to this day.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I gotta say, I think it's really, really cool that you know, you're able to apply the struggles that you've been through to help others, you know, to help them in your role as a therapist, and you know, to really show from your own, and to show your example from what you've personally been through, and your understanding of what your clients have been through. I think that's just awesome. You know, I really do.
Well,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We are about to take our break that we need to get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see you on the other side of this song, Nick Haywood, Baby Blue Sky.
Hey, welcome back to Voices for Change 2.0. I'm Joe. She's Rebecca. And the rock star that we've got on the line is Mr. Brent Lyles. Thank you for being with us today, sir. Good day to you.
Good day to you.
Thank you.
I was contemplating the fact that I didn't say what I usually say, and thus not getting grief from my wife. So.
Yes, dear. I know everything
No
you do revolves around whether or not you're going to get grief from your wife.
I don't want to give you a complex. Well, yeah, I don't want to give you a complex, babe.
Yeah.
So, this is a little off topic, but with doing some research on the website for the comics, we couldn't help but notice the picture with Stan Lee. What was it like to meet this absolute legend?
Oh, it was amazing and very quick. So when we went to New York Comic Con, that was actually the first time. If you see the picture, the founder of ArcLight Comics is Ed Williams, and the other big white guy, that's Tim Losney. He's one of our art directors, and that was the first time we actually went to Comic Con. We actually met in person. So we've formatted this comic book company, and we've always been remote. So that was the first time we actually got to meet each other actually in person. So we went to New York. That was very interesting because that was my first Comic-Con. And I guess if you're going to go to the most overwhelming Comic-Con in New York, and it's one of them. So we went. It was amazing. Got to see Stan Lee probably about less than 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So so you're standing in line, and then like you're being like, it's almost like you're like a plane, almost like you're being orchestrated to like go on the runway, and then like you get into the next lane, and then before you know it's like you're flying off, and then they're like, all right, and you're done, and you're like leaving. And it's really quick because you're like, oh, hey, so thank you so much. And you turn, you pause with him, and then he says something to you. And luckily he knows a couple of our T-shirts with a couple of our characters. And he's like, oh, that's really neat that you guys do your own comics. And before we could even respond, I was like, and we're out. So it was a very quick kind of like turn in. But it was amazing. I couldn't have changed it for anything. I tell you what, it was very amazing to be able to sit in the presence of someone that like I highly respected, especially with the medium of comics. Stan Lee was pretty much one of many founders that pushed comics into what it is known in the mainstream. We wouldn't be able to have that form of medium without, I think, him and several other individuals of writers and artists that really launched comics to be respectful instead of being looked at as a kid thing, but more in lines of actually being accepted into the arts of a form of literature.
Right.
So it was amazing.
Exactly.
So hard to believe still that he's gone, and it's not like he was, in his 40s and it was a big shock. He developed some condition or whatever. I mean, he was in his 90s, and he lived a good long life, but still, when it happened, it was so shocking because he's just always been there.
Yeah. Yeah, he was one of those people that, you know how old he is, but you're still like, oh, this man's going to live forever, because he's just that incredible of an individual, and I'm happy for you that you got to meet him. I'm a little envious. And I'm a little heartbroken that I'll never get the opportunity. But, I think especially the fact that he acknowledged that you guys were creators as well, I think is just,
epitomizes Stan Lee.
Yeah, I'd be speechless. I'd be like, wow, he knows,
Mm-hmm. It was. It was. I remember we were like, did we say something? And Tim Wasley, the big guy that you see in the picture, he's so funny. He was like, I just wanted to pick him up and hug him, but then I felt like I would probably be beat by security, and then I was gonna throw him a cell. Because they're very when you're going up into the line, like I said, it's almost like this runway. They're like, all right, you're gonna turn around, don't talk to him, don't startle him, don't touch him. You're like, oh, okay, I'm memorizing all this stuff. Okay, don't mess up.
Don't make eye contact.
Contact.
Barely breathe.
That's funny.
You know.
Yes.
Bring your own oxygen, so he's not breathing your air and you're not breathing his.
Yeah. Pretty much.
It's funny. So, the artwork on ArcLight Comics is.
Yeah, let's cover that one more time. His website is www.arclightcomics.com.
Yes. How much of it is work that you've done?
I am actually not one of the artists. I'm actually just one of the storytellers.
Right. I just mean, you know, your writing in conjunction with the artwork that's on there. I didn't mean to misunderstand. Yeah.
No, you're good. You're good. No, you're good. I think so many times that people, like, when they look at the medium of comics, their first thing is always thinking of artists, which is amazing to think about because, you know, the art is the first thing. The whole medium is led by art. So it's always interesting when I have conversations with people. They're like, so you're an amazing artist. And I was like, well, a different type of artist. Like I do writing and I create some of the characters and stuff. And they're like, oh, you don't draw? I'm like, no, I don't draw. They're like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, yeah, it's just, like I said, a different form. So I'm used to it with different people, but we have a team of several different artists and stuff. Like I said, Tim Wozni is one of our is pretty much our art lead, and even Ed Williams is our founder. He is an artist as well. So a lot of the artwork is edited. Tim does a lot of the coloring aspect. Ed Williams does a lot of the lettering, and both of them are very unique and very talented individuals, especially Ed Williams, who is the founder. He's actually a brand strategist. So he's all the website is basically like what he does for a living. And right now, currently, he's actually, I believe, the assistant director of, I'm going to say, the Martin Luther King Jr. Museum out in Memphis, Tennessee. So he's doing that and pursuing that career on top of, you know, making sure that we're launching as a comic book company as well. Or now I should say a transmedia company. So we're going to venture into animation at some point, video games. So we're kind of thinking now going beyond the comics and more into, like I said, transmedia. And see if we can reach a broader audience that way, which is exciting, nerve-wracking, and everything in between.
That's sweet, man. That's
very cool.
Awesome. Yeah, you know. So what are some of the titles that you've personally worked on with the company?
So the two titles that I have helped work on, one was my first, which was was Go Girl. There's a character that is a Korean. Her name's Go Girl, and I helped format one of her mini issues. At some point in our company, we figured out that the production of comics is very expensive, especially when you have in-house artists as well. So we figured out a simple formula, because it does cost a lot of money, that we would do mini issues. So what we did was we took a period of time and we did a lot of the different characters, and we focus on doing a story arc within one page and telling a very self-contained story on one page, which was a very challenging but also fun experience because it really narrows down your storytelling on what you can really state, and it really kind of like hits a focal point of what the message is. So I actually helped out with Go Girl, one of her mini issues, which actually talked about self-harm. So with me being able to be kind of like the consultant on the team for therapy, psychology, counseling, and also have the lived experience of being a former cutter, I was able to throw authentic flair into the conversation that she has with a girl who's cutting, and they have a dialogue exchange between the two of them. and being able to, at the end of this one-page story, post a number for NAMI of a contact hotline for individuals to talk about it. And I believe one of the quotes that Go Girl states is just like she's validating the girl and saying, like, it's not weird that you're struggling with this. It's, I can help you get help and stuff. You're still a strong individual. So that was my first real take of kind of helping, putting my input into a mini issue before I did my first standalone one with my character Lyles, which I wrote by myself, which was actually a therapy session between him, because Noah Novak, which is his other alias, I should say, is a therapist as well. So I had a therapy session between him and a client that I had, and I based that client off a real person in an addiction setting, had this conversation about hope and about believing in hope and how, you can pretty much apply this grit mentality to get out of this, sometimes what we feel like this darkness that seeps over us, especially with living with mental health and living with mental illnesses and finding certain things. So that was my first solo one that I did, and it did wonders. It did great when we went to our first Comic-Con. People loved it. I was very proud to see, for the first time in comics, a very authentic representation of therapy, and it was just amazing to kind of, have that experience and actually give light to the subject areas of mental illness, mental health, as well as, living with a disability as well.
Speaking of therapy, do you still have clients? Do you still practice therapy in between this venture that you've got going with ArcLight?
Yes, I do. I actually am a full-time therapist at a treatment center called Boca Recovery Center. So I've been in and out of different treatment centers for the past 5 years. And so, yeah, I do work with clients right now. I'm actually, I would probably say, considered one of the trauma therapists, or what we call first responder tracks. So I help out a lot of clients that have more of the cutting, more of the past traumas, and that's pretty much my day job. So I do have clients. I've had many clients over the years. I currently have a caseload now of 8, so that I work with. So that's mostly my day job, and then on the side, when I can find time and be able to pursue my passion, that's where ArcLight comes in.
Do you ever find it difficult when someone comes in and they're an experienced cutter, or they are in that mindset, and you have to kind of talk them through that? Do you ever find that difficult for yourself personally?
That's a great question. Yes, I remember when I first entered this field, I was very nervous because you're always kind of trained in the graduate program, which is basically, your master's degree, and to be a therapist. And there's like 2 different theories. There's one that you don't self-disclose at all because it would be too much of you, and you give yourself, and it's not good health, self-care, and it becomes more about you than the client. But then there's this whole other theory that sits there and says that, there's a healing aspect of working with a client and being able to self-disclose and building that connection, that authentic connection with the client. So during my past 5 years, I struggled with finding that balance. And I finally, I would say, the past year and a half really found confidence in myself as a therapist, and where, I let them share their story with me, and, I validate and I listen, and I give them a voice, and I reinforce that. And then through that, I give them hope by saying, hey, listen, I'm also in recovery from cutting, or I'm in recovery from past trauma experiences, and I also happen to not discriminate and have several different diagnoses. So when I tell them that, it's amazing to see clients are very I don't know, they just feel validated, I believe. They're being like, oh, wow, like he actually didn't go to school for this and read a textbook. Like he actually had a lived experience with this, and he actually understands where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
It kind of pulls down their guard a little bit because they know, hey, you know what? He's been through what I'm going through. He understands.
I know.
Yeah,
just
there's been times too where it's been hard.
I know. I'm sorry to interrupt. Just from my personal experience, since I wrote my book, I had many people come to me asking me about it, and there was a period of time where I was going to be a volunteer on a helpline, and at the very beginning of my journey with this whole thing, I just wasn't ready for it, and it became too much for me, and I started having nightmares and urges and everything. So just from my experience, I know how difficult it is to hear that type of talk, you know, day after day after day, and keep it, you know, compartmentalized so that it doesn't affect my own personal mental health. So I applaud you for being able to separate those.
Yeah, it's been very, you know, you sum it up perfectly, especially what, you know, something I went through, you know, with school and being able to, and I always tell people all the time, it's such a blessing and also a curse, especially if you don't know how to balance it, because you know, I'm more likely to have a backlash if I'm not very conscious with where I'm at with my mental health and mental illnesses, or if I'm overdoing it too much. And I've discovered I'm a very unique individual, that I'm very energy-based, and also I'm much of an introvert as well. And what's interesting about that is I absorb a lot of pain and suffering. I almost call it like poison from clients, and I could take that from them. It's a weird experience where I feel like I can take those pains and those sufferings away, and which is amazing, because I have a client who can walk away and be like, I feel great, and then I had to learn, okay, well, what do I do with this toxic energy that I just absorbed, or hearing this very traumatic event? What do I do with this on top of my own stuff? And how do I get rid of it? And luckily, you know, comics has been like my outlet, and comics has really been my self-care. And, you know, I've been blessed enough to had a lived experience about, I believe it was a year and a half ago, where I jumped into a position way too fast as a clinical intern, and I was doing trauma work. And they were training me. I was with a supervisor, and I remember she was doing EMDR, which is the rapid eye movement that helps out with trauma, with processing trauma. And I remember she's in session, and here I am, the clinical intern, I'm assisting, and she's doing it, and I'm actually dissociating with the client. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. Like, I don't think I should be doing this right now. Like, I should be the grounded one. Like, so after that event, it's interesting how life continues to bring certain obstacles, and also when you think that you have it or that you're doing well, there's these dips in life that happens. And this led to a dip in life where, you know, I happened to receive a phone call from a family member that informed me of someone that passed away by opiate overdose. An individual who actually passed away was the individual that I grew up with that actually victimized me as a kid. And when I was sexually abused from like about ages 7 to 11. And that kind of like hit me to the core. And here I am as a therapist, I'm receiving this information, and all that trauma kicks back up, the stuff that I didn't work on or things that never came back up. And that whole week, which was a challenge. It was the first time in many years that I had cravings to cut, and I wanted to cut, and it was almost ironic of the universe that I felt like the whole week that everyone's like, hey, can you like go to the shredder and shred this piece of paper? Or hey, can you like cut out these like star things? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's almost like the universe is like taunting me like with blades everywhere. And I got to a place where I was having active panic attacks with clients, and I got to a point where I had a 13-year-old kid that I was working with, and he was like, "Mr. Brent, you're not breathing." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You look like you're having a panic attack." And that kind of hit me at home because here I am, the therapist and clinical intern, and here this kid who's 13, which I should be helping, now I'm having a panic attack, and it led to me getting to a place where I had to go on medical leave for a little bit for 3 months and really work through a lot of the rest of my mental health aspect and mental illness of working with past traumas. And you really, I would say this with individuals as well who want to be advocates and want to help and stuff, you got to be very consciously aware of when you're working with individuals that have trauma or have similar struggles or mental illnesses, that if you're not very grounded, it can bring your own stuff up and it can actually backfire and make your own stuff a lot worse, which ended up happening. And luckily, I was able to see a therapist and get on medication again, and I worked through it. And that, from me, that was a learning curve of being like, hey, listen, you're not ready yet. You have a good tension, you have a good heart, but you're not ready yet to go into the trauma track, per se, and work with those types of client yet. You got to be able to make sure that my street was clean first, so that way I was best effective for my clients in the future.
Yeah, that's it's a fine line, that you have to walk. It sounds like you've navigated it pretty well, though, which is good.
Yeah, definitely. So, in your opinion, how important is it to have a creative outlet when you're struggling with mental illness?
That's a great question. I think it's amazing, actually. I find that creativity is such a beautiful tool for us to self-express, especially with certain aspects of mental health and mental illness that are very uncomfortable. So with me using the medium of comics, being able to express through a story, like I mentioned with Go Girl, with the self-harm, and making sure that conversation was authentic, but there was hope at the end of it, of a hotline to be reached. Or even with my character that I created, Lyles, being able to have these conversations and use that as an outlet has been very healing. And, Lyles and also Noah Novak, one and the same, is basically the best version I want to be. So I feel like when I'm pretty down or have a rough day, for example, yesterday I had a very, very hard day with multiple traumas and interventions at a treatment center. And, I had a moment, and I have these posters all plastered through my office. I have Marvel and DC theme. I have a very comic book theme, therapy office. You would think you were walking to a comic book store more than a therapist's office. But, that's my safe space, and, that's just my personality. So I remember yesterday, trying to recharge, and I had a moment because I'm human as well. And, I was breaking down a little bit of just hearing certain stories from certain clients. I had to take a space to kind of, recharge myself. And I looked at the poster, and when I looked at Noah as Lyles on the poster that you guys see on the website, I have a picture just solely of him. And I looked at the wall, and I'm like, you know what? Noah can do this. I can do this. Noah is a beacon of light. I can do this. Just save space for yourself. Feel the emotions. You're doing the best you can right now. You can always do better. You got this. And through that's allowed me to have an outlet. It's, allowed me to express myself. And I actually use comics and the hero's journey and films in my groups, and even with clients as well, to help them have a medium to self-express themselves, or be able to use films as a way to talk about very hard discussions on certain things, and use that as kind of like a icebreaker into a conversation. So, and I think the arts are a beautiful thing. I've seen very success with it, with using it with clients.
It's cool because it almost seems like by you working on Lyles that, it's therapeutic for you too. Like how some people would, journal or blog what they were going through. you're almost doing it in a different kind of way with your involvement in the comics. And I like the idea that what you guys with ArcLight are doing kind of takes a bit of the Marvel model and extends it further. You know, if you look at the classic Marvel characters, you know, they're all cast as very human and very flawed. You know, Tony Stark with his drinking problem, or Peter Parker going through his trials, you know, as a teenager.
Puberty.
You know, puberty and being bullied and, you know, all these different things, you know. And I think it's awesome that you guys are kind of bringing the mental health aspect to the characters. And, you know, I applaud that. You know, I really want to get into what you guys are doing, and I'm so happy that we've talked with you today, because it's opened up something for me personally to look into more. You know, I want to read about these characters. I want to read their stories. I want to, you know, see where things go with this. You know, I'm really excited.
Yeah. Very cool. So we've actually, believe it or not, only got a few minutes left. That hour absolutely flew by.
Yeah, it did.
So with the little time that we have left, we usually like to have our guests mention their social media so that other people can find them online.
So where can people find you?
So you can find me at it's Brent Lyles. You can, through Twitter, through IG. That's the best way to find me. Or you can find us through the website as well, arclightcomics.com as well.
Cool. Very, very cool. And I know I'll be reaching out to you on there as well. Just because. So.
Because he's interested in continuing this discussion.
I am, very much so. So, that said, we are going to call it a day. Brent, please stay on the line. And everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in this week. We're going to finish out the show with the song Maybe This Time by Rick Sky. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Maybe this time I'll be lucky. Maybe this time he'll stay. Maybe this time, for the first time, love won't hurry away. He will hold me. I'll be home. I stand not a loser anymore, like the last time and far time before. Everybody loves a winner, so nobody loves me. Let it be full, let it happy. That's what I long to be. When all the odds are there in my favor, something's bound to begin. It's gotta happen sometime. Maybe this time I'll win. Everybody, oh, they love a winner, so nobody loves me. Let it be full, let it happy. That's what I long to be. When all the odds are there in my favor, something's bound to begin. It's gotta happen Thanks, guys. That was swell. So listen, you guys. Now that we're starting to stop, there are a couple of people that I feel that I have to thank. The first is someone I've known my entire life, right? I've known her since I was 11 years old. She's my very best friend in the entire world. I think she's a genius. She used to do all the lighting and the sound for my father's movies, right? Ladies and gentlemen, please, help me thank Miss Colette. What's Colette? Black, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Colette Black.
And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Can I take these off? All right. What is this? This looks good. Wow, that's well made. Where did you get this? I'm talking to you with the hair. Yeah, where did you get this? It's good stuff. That's solid. That's not veneer, that's solid stuff.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Dave and I have a breakfast routine.
Yep.
I pick him up.
He picks me up.
I hand him his Tim Hortons coffee.
Freshly brewed.
And a new $1.79 breakfast wrap snacker.
$1.70 what? New routine!
That's right. It's the new $1.79 breakfast wrap snacker. A freshly grilled tortilla filled with egg, cheese, bacon, or savory sausage. Goes great with Tim's coffee.
Then I give him a napkin.
Just in case.
The new $1.79 breakfast wrap snacker. Only at Tim Hortons. Limited time only at participating restaurants.